I wouldn't make an offer at a networking event. It's almost like going on a first date and proposing marriage instantly.
Yes.
That would just be weird. You want to take time to build relationships. Use the networking event to find the people that you have a connection with, that you feel you can help, or they could help you, or there's something there that's worth exploring. Then you want to book a coffee, say, hey, I've really enjoyed this conversation. Let's take it offline. Let's meet for a coffee and explore synergies further. And if someone asks you, great, how can I work with you? Then don't tell them there and then. There's no way you're going to do your value justice. Say, great, I would
No.
love to speak to you more. Let's make a separate meeting and explore it then.
If you are new to this channel, please support us by subscribing to our channel. Don't forget to turn on the bell. We publish it 3 times a week, incredible tutorials, interviews, strategies, and all sorts of things to help you to grow your business.
Welcome, Melitta. I am so excited to have you on the show. Everybody, this is Melitta Campbell, and we are going to be diving into some networking strategies. I feel that networking is an underused strategy in this business space, and I have an expert in networking here who is going to talk about it. So, Melitta, can you please first do just talk about who you are, who you serve, and what it is that you do first?
Yeah, hi Pam. It's really a pleasure to be here today. I'm Melitta Campbell. I'm a business coach, mindset mentor, and I'm value whisperer. So it's everything. My whole background is all around marketing, communications, and what I see working best there is using those as tools to create connection, to share value, to build relationships. And I think that's where networking comes in quite well and is perhaps underestimated because it accelerates that whole process. Because when you're face to face with someone, you can't fake who you are. So yes, I've been doing this now for 15 years, working mostly with women. I started my business to help other women work flexibly around their growing family because that's where I was. But since then, I've evolved. I think all businesses evolve over time, don't they? So I work with a wider range of women now and occasionally some men as well, which is, yeah, just wonderful.
When I think about networking, and even though I love speaking and I love people and I love being around people, there is an introvert in me somewhere. And there is sometimes, there's that person who I like my own bed. I like my own home, my own space. And, when I think about other people who might be watching this and having different personalities, how does one who is extremely shy, extremely introverted, or, perhaps you have social anxiety, right? How do you get over that to even consider networking? Can we talk about that specifically for a moment?
Yeah, and what I did was I was actually at a leadership training event and we were encouraged to do some self-coaching around a problem we were having. So I chose networking. So I took that as an opportunity that, well, what would it take for me to succeed at this? Which is a question I'd never asked before. And once I did, it just became really clear. Well, I need to make it easy. I need to do it my way. I need to decide what's the brand I want to create, what's the impression I want to leave people with, how do I want to be showing up. If I'm not comfortable being center of attention, do I even need to be? And the answer for good networking is no. You're sharing 80% of the time, and if you can listen to other people and just ask a few simple questions to help guide that conversation, what a gift. No one gets attention and no one gets listened to these days, and we really miss it. So I realized that's the gift. I'm going to go to the next networking event, and my gift is to make other people feel great, to listen, to ask a few questions, to understand. And that's how my network grew, because when I was speaking to someone, it's like, and Pam may say, oh, I'm really looking for this kind of person. It's like, oh, have you met so and so over here? And I would introduce you. Because I listened, I knew what the value was everyone had, and I could connect people. And then my reputation grew, and I don't have the biggest network, but I know who those people are, and I'm always trying to find ways to serve them. And in between, I'm following up and sharing. I know like Pamela's really into wealth. So if something comes up on that subject, I'm going to share it with you. So over time, you're reinforcing these relationships as well.
Okay, I love that. So a few things I picked up was self-coaching, redefining networking. What does networking look like for you? Because it doesn't have to look the same way for everybody. And what is the impression that you want to leave people with? And finally, which I think was the most important point in that segment, was talk less, listen more. Essentially, talk less, listen more, so that you can actually hear and be more effective. So the following question that I have for you is, Melita, so let's say we get over the shyness, we're doing the self coaching, we've now decided, okay, I'm going to do some networking. Can we talk through the skill set that one needs to be an effective networker, both for themselves and for others?
Yeah, and I think this works especially well for introverts as well, because we like to be prepared. So you want to break it down into three. If you do these three parts well, you almost don't need the middle part, which is showing up to the event. Obviously, it's not really networking if you don't. But
Yes.
the first part is getting prepared. Really planning through how are you going to introduce yourself. That's a big one, because very often, and certainly for me, a big part of my fear was, what do I say when people ask, what do you do? And then I don't know why, it just never dawned on me to think about that beforehand and prepare a little bit. It's obvious in hindsight. So think about your introduction. And as we were just saying, the impression you want to leave people with. How do you want to show up? And what I like to do is to break that down into 3 words to remind myself of how I want to show up. So as I'm walking in the room, for example, I'm saying bold, open, curious. And then before every conversation, I remind myself of those 3 words. And then it's incredible how you can channel that personality. Well, not really the personality, you can't change that, but you're channeling that. Yeah, exactly. And you're embodying the behaviors that you want to be known for. So that's really simple and powerful as well. And just planning a few stories. What could you talk about? What's topical? Maybe what brand stories or client stories illustrate what you do? What funny anecdotes have you got from your past that also tie into what you do? So you can talk about what you do without being salesy. You can make it conversational and enjoy it as well. If you're talking too much about my business and salesy, it doesn't feel right to us anyway. So preparing a few of these stories in advance can really help as well. And then afterwards, it's all about the follow up, of course. So you don't need to follow up with everybody. Just pick those 1 or 2 people you think, yeah, I want to get to know that person more.
Melita, so we've talked about the skill set just now. The next thing I want to talk about is the connection. So now we know what to do beforehand, how to prepare, the skill set that we need. What about in the networking itself? What can you share with us about how do you identify the right connectors? Because people go into networking events for different reasons. Sometimes you're looking for clients, other times you're looking for business partners, or sometimes you're looking for opportunities. How do you not talk yourself out of these opportunities and find, your ideal client at a networking event?
Yeah, great question. And I think this is getting easier as well, because it comes down to what you do before. So you'll research and you'll think, well, what's my purpose for this event? Is it, am I looking for a mentor, or am I just expanding my network? Am I looking for a friend? Do I want a new client? Do I want a partner? There are so many different things your network can give you. So think about what you want to get for the event and plan for that. And the beauty now is most online events have in-person events have online registration. So you can find out who is coming. So look at the guest list beforehand and start to make your short list of people. Now, you don't want to go to the event and someone come up to you and you think, you're not on my shortlist, I'm not going to talk to you. That's just rude. So don't do that. But it does make it easier to find those people that you know you want to talk to. And but keep your mind open, because you never know who knows who within that room as well. And a great thing that I like to do is when I'm leaving a conversation, which is always something that I found really difficult. It's like, how do you do that without being rude? You know, being very British. It's like, if I walk away and say I want to speak to someone else now, it's kind of like, I've had enough of you. So what I say now is that, you know, I've really enjoyed our conversation. I've loved speaking about and something specific. And there's that, you know, I've come here because I really want to get to know more people and I tell them who I want to get to know. I say, who do you want to get to know? And if I meet them while I'm networking, I'll introduce you. And then your networking, yeah, I love it because it's really giving a lot of value. You are then networking on their behalf as well. And they're quite happy for you to go off, but also they know who you're trying to meet. So they will do the same for you. And nobody does this. So you really stand out for the right reasons.
I want to talk about, as we have a lot of people watching this who are in the coaching space, they're experts in their own right in different various spaces. Can we talk a little bit about making an offer, right? How do you move from conversation to, a deal, to an enrollment, or to, an opportunity? And I want to call that, how do you make an offer at a networking event? And do you even make an offer at a networking event? Let's just talk a little bit about that.
No, I wouldn't make an offer at a networking event. It's almost like going on a first date and proposing marriage instantly. You know,
Yes.
that would just be weird. You want to take time to build relationships. You know, use the networking event to find the people that you have a connection with, that you feel you can help, or they could help you, or there's something there that's worth exploring. Then you want to book a coffee. Say, hey, I've really enjoyed this conversation. Let's take it offline. Let's meet for a coffee and explore synergies further. And if someone asks you, great, how can I work with you? Then don't tell them there and then. There's no way you're going to do your value justice. Say, great, I would love to speak to you more. Let's make a separate meeting and explore it then. So you don't want to be selling at a networking event. You don't ever want to be known as that person. Use it to start the conversation and take it slower. You don't need to rush anything. And if this person is going to become a client, particularly if you're in coaching, that could be a really long relationship. So it's worth taking the time to build that relationship on a strong foundation.
So I want to talk about the follow-up. I feel that this is where a lot of people drop the ball because you go to networking events, you collect all of these contact details, and you're building your network. How do you actually build your network? How do you follow up? What do you do post event? So the event's wrapped up. What do we do now?
Yeah, so as you say, it can be quite overwhelming if you walk away with dozens of cards or lots of new people in your LinkedIn connections and you're like, who are these people? So it's good to focus on meeting less people, or at least following up with less people. Not everyone you meet at the event is going to be someone that you want to follow up with. They're not going to add the value to your network or to your clients or to you or whatever. And that's okay. But follow up with just the two or three that do you want to get to know better, you want to build a relationship with, and just send them a simple message to say, hey, it was great to meet you yesterday, and again, keep it specific. I loved the conversation we had about whatever. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next with whatever they talked about, and it can be that simple. Or if there's something you've promised them, maybe it's like, we had a great discussion about this and I promised to send you my latest free training to help you with that. Here it is. Or it could be an article about something you were looking at, or maybe a funny cartoon. Like, it's so funny. I opened the paper today and this was what I saw. It really stood out to me because of what we were talking about. I thought you'd appreciate it as well. So just something that's small that makes them feel valued, heard, remembered. Again, all of these great things. And then there's various different ways you can follow up. I have a very simple Trello board where I just drag my contacts into whatever month I want to follow up with them with a little note saying, this is the last conversation I had. Follow up with them in a month, just check in what they're doing, ask about this, or share something on whatever. And then it just becomes really easy. So each month I have my list of people to work through. I've got I call them amnesia notes to remind me of what we talked about, because we always think we're going to remember, right? But we never do. So it makes it really easy for my future self to take action and build those relationships over time. And sometimes people, you want to meet them once a month. Sometimes it'll be once a year. But and I've got people coming round for a networking event here at my home that I haven't met for probably 3 or 4 years. Some of them particularly because of COVID. But I thought, now's the perfect opportunity. Let's invite them over, catch up, and do something personal for that part of my network, because I want to restart that. So it's never too late.
Yeah, that is so beautiful. And I love, with everything that you've just shared, especially in this segment, it's all about value. So even when you're following up, you're coming back and you're saying, hey, I was looking at this and I thought about you. Here it is. Or here is the thing that I promised. And you are just leading with value. And, there's a quote that I love, and it says, your gift will make room for you. So every time you lead with a gift, it always opens doors because it causes people to smile. And when people smile because of you, you become more memorable. And that's what I love about that. Thank you, Melitta. So you mentioned at the beginning of this, which I loved, and that it's networking. You started with networking, and it is networking that has really helped you to build your business. But when was the moment when you knew that, what was your wake to wealth moment when you thought, oh my God, this is working. I am able to, whatever wealth means to you, able to live the life of my dreams because of networking, or able to have, whatever you want to share. I just want to hear that story. When was that wake to wealth moment for you because of networking?
Yeah, I think there's been a few. So the very first one was when my daughter was 5 months old, and I realized I don't want to go back to the office full time. And so I was like, well, what do I do? And I met with a friend that I met through networking. We met up for lunch, and I was like, maybe I could just write a newsletter for someone, that would be easy. I could do it in nap times. I could do it in my sleep. And she goes, oh, I know someone looking for someone to write a newsletter. She put me in touch. It was someone I'd also met through networking, and they were like, great, I'd love to work with you. That was it. First business started. And that person was really happy with the work I did. They emailed their network, and in 8 years, I didn't do any marketing. I didn't do anything. I did networking. That was the only thing I did. I did networking. I had LinkedIn, but this is like 15 years ago. People weren't using LinkedIn like they do today. Yeah, so it was purely my network that got my first business started. However, that wasn't really my wake to wealth moment, because what I did with my first business is I created a job. I didn't really create a business. And I think a lot of people fall into this trap. So I was overwhelmed trying to keep all my bosses happy, which were my clients, but they were not really, but I wasn't in control at all. So it wasn't a business. And it got to a point where I thought, I can't do this anymore. I have to find a way to change. And then I went to my network. I went to a networking event, and I just listened. I was like, well, what do people need? How do they respond to me? What else could I be doing? And it was interesting. 5 women came up and asked me, well, could you help me succeed in my business? And I was like, no, I couldn't do that. And it was the 6th person that asked me, and I was like, look, so a lot of people have asked me this. What do you see in me that I'm missing? Why do you think I'm the perfect person to help you build your business? And she explained, she said, well, I don't know how to communicate what I do. People don't understand my value. They are not really, well, they'll come to me. I'm getting clients, but not for what I want to be doing. I just don't know how to communicate. I don't know how to market. I'm overwhelmed. Isn't that what you do? And I was like, yes, that's exactly what I do. Okay, great. So Yeah. So then I thought, brilliant. So I went away, I put together, well, what would that look like? If I was to go out and be a business coach and help people find their value, communicate, market, and sell that value in ways that feel good for them and good for their clients, easy, they're not overwhelming. What would that look like? So I mapped that out. Then I went back to my network and said, hey, I'm putting this out there. I want to test it on like 3 people. Anyone know anyone? And 5 people came forward and said, yes, me. So that was it, it was that easy,
Love it.
and that was, and I had a business in the middle as well, which was also started by my network. So your network, I believe, it's the shortcut to everything you want. Full stop.
Yeah.
Whatever you want,
Yeah.
your network will provide it.
We've come to the time of wild card. Woo-hoo. So, for anybody who's unaware, if you're watching this or yes, if you're watching or listening for the first time, I'm wondering what is wildcard. Wildcard is a series of questions that I have 5 questions, and I'll be asking Melitta to choose any number between the numbers 1 to 5. Melitta has no idea what these questions are, but they're all related to what we've been talking about today. And whatever number Melitta chooses, that is the question that I will be asking. So, Melitta, can you choose any number between 1 to 5 for me?
I'm going to go for lucky number 4.
Lucky number 4, 1, 4. Aha! This is a very good one, an interesting one. It is. How do I start my own networking event if I want to run one?
Great question. I think, almost like what I was doing when I started my network is like, how do I want to show up? How do I want to be remembered? Like, what's this for? So why do you want to start your own event? What do you want to get out of it? What value do you want to give? And really start there. That will probably already give you some answers as to, am I going to do like a big event? Is it all going to be about me presenting, showcasing something, doing a training? Is it going to be maybe a panel event or some kind of speed networking? There's so many different ways you can do it, but understanding what you want to get out of it and the value you want to give to your network, that will give you some answers as to where to begin with that.
I love that. And just a follow-on question from that, Melitta, with networking events, can you just talk a little bit about online versus offline? And is it one or the other? Can it still work in both places? Can we just shed a little bit just to follow on that question about creating your own networking event?
Yeah, I love that you brought that up because it's probably the question I get asked the most. Is like, great, well, that's how you network in person, but how do you do that online? And my answer is the same way. Prepare how you're going to introduce yourself. Very often in an online situation, they'll say, oh, introduce yourself in the chat. And people just dump their LinkedIn profile and think, well, how rude. Who are you? Why should I click on that? So prepare just a one line. This is who I am. This is who I help. Come, I'd love to connect, and an invitation. Call to action. Here's me on LinkedIn. Be like you would be in person. So I don't think it's as different as people think, and I think the two work nicely. For events for introverts, online works brilliantly because you can put people into little breakout groups. You can give them tasks more easily. You can guide that event more. So I think the online space works very well for introverts. It doesn't feel as overwhelming. We do feel like, oh, I could just click a button and hide my camera and then I'm okay. So we have a bit of security. But yeah, I think online, the tools we have now are really interesting. So you can do something great. But at the same time, I still love face-to-face events. It is a bit more scary for me as a shy person in particular, but I do come away with a very different energy, having made very different types of relationships with people. So I think it's nice to balance the two.
Yes, I agree. I agree. I started off doing lots of offline speaking events. Then, of course, post-pandemic, I've just been online. And now I'm at the point in my business where I'm hungry to get out and meet people in person. So I agree with you. It's important to mix it up. There's a huge difference in mixing it up for sure. Melissa, if people want to find you to learn more about the art of networking and using it to grow their business, where can they find you?
So you can put Melitta Campbell into anything. I'm everywhere on social media. On my website is melittacampbell.com. That's with 2 T's. You can also find my book, A Shy Girl's Guide to Networking, on any online platform, or you can go to your local bookstore, which is always really nice, and they can order it for you and it will arrive in a few days.
Wonderful. I love that. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed this episode, which I'm sure you did, if you got value, make sure you reach out to Melitta. When you do, let Melitta know that you met her here on the Wake to Up show with me, your host, Pamela Bessa. Thank you all so much for watching. Melitta, you have been wonderful, such great value. I am so excited to get back out networking in person again. Thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you once again for joining me on this video. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And before you go, take a look at the pieces of content on the screen right now, where we walk you through various strategies to scale your business. So don't go away, jump into any of the cards on the screen right now.